53 seconds left. Now 50. Hayward works right. Terminates. Gives to the corner to Millsap. Resets Gordon. 8 seconds left. Here comes G-Time on a mismatch with Ajinka. Rises. Fires. Hits. Gordon Hayward. 28 points, and the Jazz lead it by 5. 96-91.
This is Gordon Hayward. Remember, play with the pass. This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
Welcome to Tip Off, coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah, as the All-Star break is underway for Utah Jazz. We'll give you the NBA 5. We'll discuss where the Jazz are at the break, and we'll address Enes Kanter's quest to be traded by the deadline. It's all coming up on Tip Off. How are you? It's a home broadcast, so we'll have the video for you. The system works. When we're on the road, I just can't get it. I'm not even sure that Postcast was very good last night. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to look into it and stay with it. But I think we're going to stay with the system we have. And then if there are video things I think are pertinent, we'll do short little hangouts where we can do that. There are some other ideas. I've got a bunch of great suggestions from people. I'm going to take the family, spend some time with the family, and then I'll work on it when I get back. So this is our final tip-off podcast for you until probably Wednesday the 18th. I'm sure you'll survive just fine without it. You can follow us on Facebook, David Locke and Locked On Sports. Google Plus community is very strong. You can join in, be a part of that. It's the Locked On Sports Google Plus community, and on Facebook we're at Locked On Sports. If you get a chance to give us 5 stars on Stitcher or on iTunes or wherever it is you listen to this, those are very helpful. It helps our ratings a great deal. So thank you very much for tuning in. Let's get right to the NBA 5.
This is Rudy Gobert, and you are Locked On Jazz.
It's interesting to me as we hit All-Star break, the 3 kind of constants in the NBA have clicked back in. And what I mean by that are the Spurs have suddenly won 4 of 5, 7 of 9, 11 of 14. Kevin Durant and LeBron James have quickly reminded us that they're the 2 best players in the NBA. Like, we'll have a continual discussion of Steph Curry and James Harden and who the MVP is, and I think that discussion will go for the rest of the year, and I actually kind of think that the boat is sailed and left the dock enough so that you're not gonna. I don't think that LeBron or Durant gets back in that conversation. I feel like it's a 2-man race at this point. Anthony Davis keeps kind of putting up big enough numbers so it gets mentioned. However, there's really no doubt who the 2 best players in the league are. LeBron last night had an off night against Miami, 18-10-7. 18-10-7. And they blew out the Heat in Cleveland. The last night before the All-Star break is always a funky night. Usually, the road teams win. That did not happen last night. Usually, from the years past, I've always believed the road teams are very successful, and that there were only 3 road wins last night. So it did not happen the usual way. Oklahoma City crushed Memphis, 105-89. Again, it's a funky night. You don't want to make too much into it. But this is a good night to me of where the Scott Brooks criticism, to some extent, needs to leave the building. So, pretty slow, grinded out game because it's Memphis. Kevin Durant uses 17 possessions. Russell Westbrook actually uses more. Russell Westbrook used about 23. But that's how it should be. Serge Ibaka, Nick Collison actually ended up grabbing some offensive rebounds and putbacks and ended up using more. He had 5 offensive rebounds and 12 shot attempts. But that's how it should be. You know, for all the criticisms of Oklahoma City's offense and the lack of its elegance, sometimes when they play the best teams, the fact that they're able to get Durant and Westbrook their shots is actually more important than anything else. And they are. They're regularly able to do that. Now, last night they got 24 fast break points, and they wired to wire the Grizzlies last night. They really They beat them up 108, 105-89. They were up 9 at the end of one and 18 at the half. Oklahoma City and Durant, the issue there, and Ron made a good point on our TV shot that the All-Star break's good to them. They just need to reset the order by which their world exists. They've got to let Durant become the number one dog again, Westbrook number 2, Ibaka number 3. But Oklahoma City is within half a game of Phoenix, who's lost 7 of their last 10 and ends the year on a miserable run. We're one night away from the 8 playoff teams being set as they're going to be. Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and the Clippers are going to be 6, 7, 8 unless somebody catches Dallas. What's interesting is I just don't think Golden State or Memphis is very beatable in the first round for those 7 and 8s. Clippers are 2-0 here since Blake went out, and DeAndre Jordan's gone 20-20 in both. And they're doing something really interesting. With Jordan, they're playing 4 smalls. Matt Barnes is this power forward. Jamal Crawford, J.J. Redick, and Chris Paul are all playing together with DeAndre Jordan. Houston tried to actually go smaller. It's an interesting model. I like it. It's you have the one big rim protecting big. It's something the Jazz could frankly probably do with Rudy, but he's got to become a better rebounder. I mean, Jordan's really an elite level rebounder. And you play small with the other guys. They did that last night for 12 minutes. They had that lineup on the floor, and they just lived at the free throw line. They shot 31 free throws in those 12 minutes while those guys were on the floor, just driving, creating, very difficult to guard in every round. They were +5 in those 12 minutes. They outscored their opponents 31-26 in that 12-minute span. That's a lot of points. That's an offensive rating that's pretty interesting. Final thing on the NBA 5 today. This is jealousy, I think, and really nothing else. But is anyone else tired of listening to about the Milwaukee Bucks and what a great story they are? I mean, we went into Milwaukee and beat them the other night fairly soundly. Without all of our guys, everyone's talking about how the Bucks are, they're 30-23 and they're the feel-good story. They're the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Part of me thinks we'd be 30-23 if we played in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I get, hey, they've done some nice things, and everyone's very excited about them, but I just don't. I mean, so since we beat them, they beat Detroit. Huh? They lost to the Spurs. They beat Miami, Orlando. They got Portland. Okay, that's worth. They won in Toronto. It's worth Lakers, Boston, Brooklyn, Sacramento. Nah. It doesn't move my meter that they're some fabulous team. It moves my meter that their schedule has been forgiving, that they get to play 50 games in the Eastern Conference, 52, and it's a huge difference. But we're not particularly good. We'd be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference, unquestionably. And so there's all this love heading that direction. And to me, what I think is so interesting on the psychology of it is how good Milwaukee feels about themselves. And as I think to some extent is the case with the Enes story that we'll get to, how we don't. We're 19-34, which may be behind where we were at this point last year. And there's probably not quite that feeling of what we're doing. I mean, I listened the other day to the starters, and they're talking about, well, maybe the Bucks deserve an All-Star. Oh my gosh! I mean, maybe in the East they do, but I don't know. I just can't buy in to this idea that they're this feel-good story when they play in a conference is just so bad that they look good. I mean, maybe I'm overstating it, but I do feel like if we played an equally balanced schedule, or we got to play their schedule moreover, we'd be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. Now, if we all played a balanced schedule, we probably wouldn't be a playoff team because of the fact that the 11 other teams in the Western Conference that are better than us would be playoff teams. The Bucks are 20-13 in their conference. They're 10-10 out of their conference. Okay, that's actually pretty good. We're only 10-21 in our conference. But I think it would be nice if we could go play the other way around. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I just was so underwhelmed by them when I saw them. It's hard for me to take that. That is your NBA 5.
Hey, this is Gordon Hayward. I want to hear from you. Call 801-200-3738 and ask me a question. That's 801-200-3738 to ask me a question.
Great. Thank you, G. All-Star break. And then we'll touch on Enes. We are where we thought we'd be, right? Frankly, I think we're better. The win-loss doesn't show it. The progress is obvious. The development of the key guys is obvious. Derek and Gordon are having great years. Rudy has emerged beyond what we'd anticipated. The Alec injury has stunted that, and I got a great question on Ask Locke about how does Alec fit if Derek and Rudy are on the floor together with spacing? It's a good question. Alec's going to really have to learn how to play in the system more than he did, because you freelance, you're going to run into guys now, and he doesn't get that chance. So that's a real step. The Alec injuries are really disappointing. Lack of development for a key guy this year. But the fact that this team has played now an 8-game stretch here against the best in the NBA. We battled the Clippers. We beat the Warriors. We battled Portland. We battled Memphis. Memphis looked great that night. I think we lost in Phoenix, right? Beat Sacramento, beat New Orleans. I thought played with Dallas last night, really kind of out of the chute, got stunned by their switching and their first team to double us in the post. And really what we have glaring weaknesses. We have major issues. The way the roster's built, the way we are due to injuries, that can be exposed. And Dallas had a good enough game plan, because Rick Carlisle's fabulous, to expose those weaknesses. And went after where we're not very good. And we can't always counter that yet. But we battle. We played it through. We had a chance late. The last play of the game is a mess. I still don't know. It's kind of getting lost because of the Enes talk. I obviously the timing of the play just didn't work right for what Quinn wanted, and then Gordon's got to know the situation. He can't drive the lane and up a bounce pass down 3 with 10 seconds left. Excuse me. Usually another one coming. Wait, here we go. It's good. I got allergies in February because there's no snow. Fabulous. So we still got a long way to go. We're one of the worst teams in the NBA in the final 5 minutes of a close game, offensively. Our shooting percentage is, I think, second worst in the NBA. Our three-point shooting percentage is worst. Okay, that's work. But you can see this team get into concepts and understand. We got to understand if they're overplaying us in the wing, how are we dealing with it? If they're switching, how are we dealing with it? Those are all, the more you see it, the more you get it. Last night's game, to me, really, in the key moments of the game, was obvious of how often, the team that Dallas had on the floor had done these things before. They were very calm while we were very frantic. And we'll have to learn that. We'll have to get better at that. And more talent helps as well in those circumstances. Some of it's just shot making or having guys that need to be guarded. We don't have 5 guys on the floor that have to be guarded. We don't have 5 guys on the floor that look for the rim. Those are items that make it very difficult to run some of your offense. They can switch pretty willingly because they're not worried about the threats on all the sides. So again, we have these weaknesses that aren't going to go away, and yet we're battling and we're making, I think, considerable progress as the season goes on. And you're seeing it. You're seeing individual progress. You're seeing group progress. You're seeing it's very clear the players like Quinn. He drives them hard. He's asking a lot. He wears them out. They will practice fly film session. It's like, holy smokes. But they like him. They like him because he's prepared and he's trying to make them better. And you can talk all you want about the modern professional athlete, which is a crock. And the truth is, these guys want to be in a situation where they can be better. And this allows them a chance to be better. And it's clear that they've bought into that and are interested in that taking place. So I think that's the biggest story about this team. As I've said, stop with the Dante stuff. Let him be. There's nothing new that you're going to learn about Dante in the next 30 games. There really was, frankly, nothing new about Dante you were going to learn in this 82 games. He's experiencing it. He's learning. He's physically not strong enough yet to do some of the things that he needs to do. You know, the concern is that you're over dipping the Oreo cookie and he somehow regresses. His brain and his mindset seems to be that he's probably pretty resilient to that, but who knows? We'll see. You know, you find out when things get stressful what someone's character is. So we'll, over time, we'll find that out from him. And you know, we found out, we saw the stress of last year impact Gordon with the contract and everything else. And we just saw the stress of this clearly impact Enes. I mean, so we'll touch on that. Otherwise, I don't think there's a, you know, this team is shorthanded at one position, 4 guys deep. You know, Elijah Millsap, 4 guys deep. It's interesting. If Elijah Millsap can figure out how to exist offensively without hurting the team, he really has a chance to be Tony Allen type. There was a player I thought of last night when I was looking at box scores that I thought was a better call than Tony Allen. And now I can't remember who it is. But a non-offensive defensive wing who, you know, probably doesn't play quite as much as Tony Allen. I mean, Tony Allen was Defense Player of the Year. Sorry, not coming to mind anymore on who that was. But there was someone last night when I was just doing Empty the Noggin or something, it kind of came to my mind, or I was looking at box scores, that has a possibility of who and how he could be. So the trade deadline, it's interesting. The trade deadline will happen Thursday. We play next Friday. So in theory, if deals are going to get done, they'll be done before. The one I would throw out there, by the way, is the way Steve Novak has played the last 2 games. I wouldn't be surprised if someone's willing to give up something and maybe we decide having the contract off the books is worth it. But if I was a contending team, I would be pretty interested in Steve Novak. Aaron Falk had in the Salt Lake Tribune today that Enes Kanter hopes he's traded before the deadline. I did not see a direct quote. Aaron's good. I'm certain that this is an accurate report. But I don't have a quote from Enes that I saw in the article, unless I'm reading an old one, and then I read the old one, he updated, and I didn't see the update. But I did not see a direct quote from Enes. You know, let's try to put this in perspective a little bit. It's not good. It's not smart by Enes. It's disappointing, and it's ill-advised, which is, you know, I really like Enes, so it's a bummer for me. But Enes can't come out of Ty Corbin and complain about that in the locker clear out, and then 6 months later complain about the situation with his next coach, and then it doesn't make sense. There's really no validity to anything in his argument that he's been mistreated or not used enough or not given an opportunity here. That's where it's so ill-advised. And ill-advised might be the perfect word for it, because you have to figure that somebody got in Enes's ear and is got in Enes's head that somehow this isn't the right situation and this isn't the right, he's not being treated fairly, or this isn't going to work out for him. He does not have a lot of people around him. He does not have a big social circle. He does not have a huge amount of support. He's kind of a man on an island with his agent. And and he's not particularly mature. We've seen that throughout his actions. And here the pressure's getting big, right? It's a free agent year. You're trying to make your money. You're not getting all the time you want every night. You know, you're driven by points and rebounds, and the coach wants defense. You make mistakes, they call you on it, and you act. Sometimes you can see the body language like I'm being picked on. Head to the sky. Ron was talking about this the other night. It's not great. Pressure comes, we see reaction. And pressure's high right now for Enes. So it's ill-advised from his standpoint. Doesn't make him look good at all. It's disappointing for me as someone who knows Enes that, that's his reaction. Impactful, I think these things always feel like they're a bigger deal at the moment they happen than they turn out to be. I will tell you, I don't think it'll impact the Jazz activity at all. I think the Jazz know this is really the last chance if they were going to trade him to do so. Otherwise, it has to be a sign-in trade where he agrees to where he's going, and we have to want the player so they're coming back, and those are difficult to get done. So this is the last window by Thursday. If you were going to decide that Enes is not a plan of your future and you want to try to garner something for that asset, this is the last chance to do it. The market for Enes is probably, as I said yesterday, not particularly big, not particularly active. The deals, as I look at it, that I think you would try to do is if there's a player out there, a Patrick Patterson, a Josh McRoberts, a Ersan Ilyasova, where the team you're trading with thinks that Enes would be a better match for them with his low post game than their type of stretch player. We think that the stretch player would be a better match for us than Enes's low post game. And in this case, maybe they have some years left on their contract that we're willing to absorb. So in the case of Josh McRoberts, you have I'm not saying that any of these are likely, I'm just trying to give you scenarios where, he's got 4 years on a brand new deal, he's out for the year. That doesn't really impact us. Like, okay, we just take him next year. We liked him. We talked to him last year in the offseason. We probably would have.
Threat has been detected.
We probably would have been willing to. Wow, I've got
Threat
some
has
sort
been
of
detected.
virus detection going on. It's a Salt Lake Tribune. It always does it. There's a player we liked. Okay, we would have probably been interested in signing him to that deal. Miami might decide with Whiteside's development or something. I don't know. I'm making this up, but that doesn't actually really vibe. That's good. That works for them. We take that. Maybe we get a future pick for taking his contract along with it, and deal done. I don't know. There aren't a lot of things. You're not getting another star. We're not going to dump him. That's the big discussion I saw on the internet last night was, well, does it hurt our trade value? No, because if we can't get value for him, we're not going to just suddenly trade him because he made a stupid comment as a 22-year-old without a very good support system. Right? Like, you're not going to just do that. You're not going to let this dictate what you're going to do. It's no different than free agency. There's a dollar figure that you are going to deem appropriate for what you know about Enes that you're willing to pay him. On Gordon, we decided it was as high as it go. We'll decide whatever that number is on Enes. If he gets an offer that's less than that, we'll match it. If he gets an offer that's more than that, we won't. The real problem for Enes with this comment, why it's so ill-advised, and whoever is barking at him must be very inexperienced in understanding how this works, is that we still basically own Enes either this is how it works. From Kanter's camp standpoint, their highest risk scenario is they don't take an offer and they become an unrestricted free agent at the end of last year. Then we've got them for another 16 months. Their other scenarios, they get an offer, we match it, we got them for another 5 years. Now, why you would pop off when that's the circumstance, again, ill-advised. I would suggest that you try not to bury Enes personally. It's not great, but 22-year-old kid who's maybe doesn't entirely grasp it all. It's too bad. Let's remember, hasn't played a lot, which is getting to be an old excuse. Been injured in 2 of his 3 off seasons. The development is still there. There's still a huge development of positive basketball coming Enes' direction. On the other end, the Jazz may decide to make what would be a bad trade. Like, okay, let's move. But that would be a decision they've already decided to make, not a decision that was dictated by a silly comment on his last chance before he goes to the deadline. So that's how it sits. I think it's unimpactful and it's ill-advised would be my general take on it. And I really like Enes a great deal. So I hope that, but he's, I hope he I hope it doesn't cause him a great deal of damage. It's not a great way to look. It doesn't make you look great at 22. He's used most of his chits up by 22 years old while being an average to below average NBA player. If you believe real plus minus, he's awful. I don't necessarily think real plus minus tells the whole story, but real plus minus tells you that he's terrible. Right? I think my Locke offensive rating, I haven't updated it today. I'd have to look at what I had yesterday because we ran it yesterday on the show or 2 days ago on the show. Let me see if I have it. My real plus minus, I don't have it. Through 44 games, he was an average offensive player. He a little bit above average offensive player. That's I think I've got a newer update on it that I probably should add. So, and he's an offensive player. I don't know. I don't have anything more really to add on it. I think it's a bummer because I'm a fan, and I just think it was an ill-advised move for him, for his reputation around the league and with the franchise when he's in a really powerless situation. And I just wonder, I just wonder how that got into his head that was the right thing to do, or who's talking to him enough that he suddenly felt that, if most of us in life have an opinion on something, all right, let's say your buddy's pissing you off or your wife's doing something that's got you all perturbed, and you go to your buddy, if you have good friends, you go to your buddies and you start to complain about it, and they say to you, dude, why don't you look at it from this perspective? And you say, oh, yeah. Well, it really feels to me like on this one, either someone's coming to Enes and saying, you're getting screwed, you're getting jobbed, you're not getting enough time, they're not letting your free agency develop, blah, blah, blah. And so then he doesn't have the life experience to buffer that out and filter that. Or he's saying to someone who's then backing him up. Clearly, that close confidant, that family member, that whomever, who's going to kind of, whoa, dude, like all of us would. Not there. Enes comes out on the Locke offensive rating as a purely average offensive player. His Locke offensive rating is a 10.6. He's actually using a use of every possession right at league average, and this doesn't count turnovers, which, he still turns the ball over 13% of his possessions that he uses, which is in contrast to Derek, who's at 10, or Rudy, who's at 17. All right, that wraps up tip-off today. You guys can chew on that one. Have a great time. Enjoy. You guys are still going to do it. I'm going to enjoy All-Star break. How's that? Thank you to LeBron and Chris Paul for the extended break. I greatly appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later.